Welcome to Postscript. I'm Christina Zeiders.
And I'm Tom Downing.
And we are starting our Miss Scarlet and the Duke marathon today, Miss Scarlet Summer, with Season 1, Episode 1.
And I have never watched this show before, so this is all new to me. But Christina has watched the show
I've watched all of it.
Until
Season
all that's
3,
available so far.
Yeah, all that's available so far. They did not early release Season 4. I have no idea what's coming.
No. But I assume hopefully they will continue the show. So.
This is the first time that we're covering a show that's only available on Passport right now. So if you want to know more about Passport and you're in the WITF area, go to witf.org. Not Postscript. Oh my God. Passport. Too many P words. And you can learn about it there and learn about how you can become a member to watch. Otherwise, you can go to pbs.org/passport probably. I'm guessing that's what it is. Just do a search for PBS Passport and you'll find it. But you can sign up. You can become a member for as little as $5 a month or $60 a year. And then you have access to a lot of masterpiece shows, lots of dramas, and even some stuff that's not PBS specific. So, yeah. And as you're watching along with us, if you have thoughts or we say something wrong on the show, please email us at ps@witf.org. Or you can message us on Facebook at witf.org or Instagram at witf.org. That's my job to know all those things.
Yeah. So. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very impressive.
So I guess we can just start to get into it if you're ready to get into it. So they set the mood at the beginning of this episode. It's very dark and wet and grungy and dirty and kind of gross, I would say.
Yeah. I love the atmosphere. The show is on point for like the aesthetic appeal for this.
This like mood setting.
It's very good.
They do it visually very well. We meet Eliza as she's paying a boy for a tip-off. And so she's going into this like alley, I guess, and there's dirty fabric hung up kind of like walls. There's fires burning all around. And we see a woman who's lying motionless on the ground. I assumed she was dead the first time I watched.
So did Eliza.
Eliza did too. So she pulls out her instrument. She's getting ready.
We should probably talk about spoilers right now because if you haven't watched the show, we're probably going to get into some spoilers.
We're going to talk about what happens in this.
So just be warned.
Yes.
And we'll probably have to say this at the beginning of every episode, but maybe
Tom will probably remember. I will not.
Yeah. So anyway,
that's fair. That's your job.
The person is not dead.
No, the person is not dead.
No.
But she did lose an eye, a glass eye, I assume.
Previously, sometime.
Yes, at some point in the process of falling to the ground, unconscious.
Well, she probably took it out when she was sleeping. If that was or unconscious. She was unconscious.
She was unconscious. She was drunk. And so the woman wakes up. She's not happy about this. There's just this woman leering over her. Probably has like sharp objects in her hand. I wasn't paying attention.
She was gonna inspect the body.
But I think she was. She was gonna do some inspection. The lady's mad. She gets into a little tussle.
Yep.
With Miss Scarlet and
it was really quick. When I saw this,
I
didn't know exactly what happened. Did she like run into like a board or she knocked herself out somehow?
The drunk lady?
Yeah.
Well, obviously the drunk lady because Eliza gets away.
Eliza was fine.
That was a dumb question.
We did skip over the fact that there was a point where Eliza took the glass eye and slipped it into her sleeve. So
she sleeved
there's nothing up your sleeves. Well, Eliza did have
she always has
a
something
glass
up
eye
her sleeves.
Up her sleeve. But yeah, I didn't really see exactly how she got the drunk one-eyed woman knocked herself out.
Got knocked out again.
But Eliza was able to vacate.
She got away and she told the boy that she wanted dead next time.
Yeah.
Check for a pulse,
which
is really morbid, and
it does, but it tells us as the audience that she's looking for these because she has an interest in finding out, understanding why people die, and it kind of like it's these little nuggets of information.
little clue as to what is to come.
Exactly,
yeah,
it sets the stage.
So she does manage to get away, though.
Yes.
And when she returns home...
but they...
no, go ahead.
Well, before we even get home, we get like the amazing intro sequence.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
yes. I forgot. Yes. So the intro sequence reminds me a lot of the Netflix Marvel series that they did several years ago at this point. Daredevil was the one that popped into my head. It's lots of close-ups, very intricate. Over this amazing music.
Yeah, the music is really good. The audience doesn't know, but at WITF, I do graphics and animation. So, like, I really love.
You were paying attention.
I love a good intro sequence. I'm like, that is excellent. It tells you a little bit about like what's to come or the feel of the story. And as I've only seen the first 2 episodes at this point when you're listening to this, and so like some of the elements that are in episode 1
Later
and 2
episodes,
actually show up in the intro. So it's kind of like a little bit of a hint.
I never noticed that before, but the second time, well, I guess third time I watched episode 2, I noticed that there were little segments of episode 2 in the open. I was like, oh, they did that for the whole season, I bet.
Yeah, very deliberate. I love how deliberate the show is.
Very, very cool.
So after the intro.
Then we're at home.
Yes.
Then we're at home, and home is very different from the streets. It's clean. It's bright. It looks proper.
Yes.
And Eliza arrives home. Obviously, it's very early in the morning, and she's been out all night. She's disheveled. She's a little bit injured. She's kind of like feeling her shoulder,
because she
collarbone.
Tussled with the one-eyed drunken lady.
Right. And her housekeeper, Ivy, tells her that, I think it was Ivy that tells her that Mr. and Mrs. Parker are there to speak with her.
Yes.
And her father.
And there are 2 attendants at her house. It's Ivy and Kitty.
Kitty, okay. I could not remember the second's name.
I wrote it. I wrote it down.
Okay, thank you.
So, but Ivy is the older of the 2. She seems to be the one who's more like the matron of the house and like maintaining, everything. And then Kitty is more of like the gopher in this case.
The gopher. I think that's a good way to, because she runs the errands and brings the stuff back. So Mr. and Mrs. Parker are there to speak with Eliza and her father. Obviously, they're there to for a proposal. It feels very obvious to me, but maybe it's not so obvious to everyone else.
It wasn't obvious to me at first, and when they first were introduced as Mr. and Mrs. Parker, I thought that they were like a couple, and then I was like, their ages were way different. Right. So obviously, it's a mother and a son, and then that's where like everything kind of like fits into place. Where this is a proposal lineup.
Well, Mr. Parker is sitting very uncomfortably. He doesn't want to be there. It's clear that he's like, I don't want to be doing this. Like, this is all my mother's idea, basically. So Mrs. Parker, we got kind of a glimpse into the era through Mrs. Parker's eyes. So she is surprised that Eliza was out for an early morning walk.
Very improper
which was
for
a
a lady.
Lie. Very improper for a lady.
Which we can talk about a little bit. You're probably about ready to get into that.
we will get to that because she's saying that London's dangerous, the crime, the filth, the general miasma of loose morality. I loved that line.
The bad air's moving around the people, yep.
And then she goes, and those contraptions. And Rupert's like, bicycles?
Yeah.
Bicycles, you mean? And she's like, yes, bicycles.
Ladies riding on bikes, very scandalous.
Yes. So, like, we're getting a little glimpse into the Victorian era where, like, women are starting to have a little bit of independence. I mean, we noticed later on in the episode, Eliza's dresses have pockets in them. I mean, that's
I did not notice that.
I noticed
For the record, I did not notice that.
I noticed it, and I shared that with you.
Yes, you did. And now that is, I can definitely see that throughout.
But, yeah, the bicycles, man, it was scandalous. These women, like, so it's common for women to ride side saddle on a horse. That was the proper way. But you have to ride a bicycle astride. You cannot sit side saddle on a bicycle and actually pedal.
Yeah.
So I thought
the chastity of ladies is that question
for
bicycles.
So, scandalous stuff. Like, what are they going to do next? Like, date people?
Agency, just the fact that this is a theme throughout the entire series, and I really appreciate that because in the Victorian time, like the men throughout this entire series, men are very condescending and just generally just dismissive of women, and this show is kind of pushing back against that pretty hard, as it should. Yeah,
and Mrs. Parker is like an old school lady, so she makes the comment that ladies should be ladies. Yeah. And Eliza's just like, oh, I agree. And she pours the tea and the false eye falls out.
Of her sleeve. Yeah, that was perfect timing.
So we see kind of this like dynamic of the past, which is Mrs. Parker, and the future, which is Eliza wants to change the world.
Yeah. And
so
Mrs. Parker, what she's wearing is like, it's either like a hat or a hairstyle. It's like a boxy.
A very intense bonnet.
Oh, yeah. Very intense bonnet. That's a good one. Very dark, very intense bonnet, very stern. Like
it has like a strap that goes under her chin.
Yeah.
Like it's it's not flattering to her face.
No, but it is very symbolic of her as a character.
Being strapped
she is
in and contained and Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did that to make her seem a little bit dated.
Yeah.
So that definitely felt like a dated outfit. Although I don't know that much about Victorian era fashion, so I can't say for sure that it's from
I am completely out of my element with that. So I will defer to you 100% because I have no knowledge of fashion in general. So apologies, listeners. I'm not going to be able to bring much to the table on that. But I will say, like, from a design perspective, like, everything is so deliberate with this show. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if, like, the costumes are...
I think they're making her old.
Yeah. Check. Very much successful.
So after the Parkers leave, probably because the false eye fell out of Eliza's sleeve, Ivy reprimands Eliza for trying to prove herself to her dad because this is how we find out, Eliza wants to work for her dad, who's a private investigator. Mm-hmm. And we also find out that all the bills are overdue.
Yes.
It felt like relatable content to me.
Because Kitty was out doing the gopher work, trying to find things.
And she came back and said, no one will sell us anything. Yeah. So here's the problem for this episode. Her father's missing.
Yeah, at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, so the quest is to find Henry, her father. And she kind of tries to do this on her own by asking people, like, have you seen my dad? Have you seen my dad? And
She walks by that creepy, like, mortician guy.
Oh, yeah. He's like, business is great right now. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah. And that place is, like, right across the street from the detective agency that she goes to.
Yeah, it's real close to her dad's office.
Yeah.
She can't find him, so she goes to visit her friend William at the police station. So this is how we meet William, who is the Duke. Yeah. Which isn't really established in this episode.
I still don't know why he's called the Duke at this point. So it is Miss Scarlet and the Duke. So we'll get that, I'm told, in a future episode.
We will get the story at some point, and I can't remember exactly when. So she goes to visit William, and she's told that he's in it. He's like, tell her I'm in a meeting, and the officer that comes in is like...
Frank, I believe.
Frank is like, she said you'd say that. I think she's overheard this whole conversation. She has.
Because she was right outside. Right around the corner off camera. Yeah. So we as viewers had no idea that she was right there. But that was a really nice little moment of levity.
Right, and then she just busts in. Yeah. So this sets up like their entire relationship, whereas he's frustrated by her but cares about her. And she's just really annoying to him.
Yes, and we find out that
she uses him a lot.
She does, and they're like childhood friends in a way. Like they knew each other when they were younger.
Friends. We find that out at the funeral later. Yeah. But they obviously they know each other very well. She just pushes her way into the office, and she says, like, my dad's missing. We don't have anything. He's in charge of the accounts. At first, he thinks she's concerned, but really, he's like, oh, so this is about money. I think it's money and concern, and she's kind of like making herself at home in his office and looking through his cases and asking him about it. And he tries to like tell her he's busy and get her out of the office. But she notices a photo of a murdered man who has syphilis rashes on his feet. And she says it's probably the wife. And William obviously hasn't considered that the wife is the perpetrator for this murder. And then Eliza leaves. Like,
Eliza quickly sizes up the situation.
That's my exit. Goodbye.
Yes. Yeah.
When she returns home, unfortunately, Henry is found, but he's also lost. A Dr. Edwards has brought him home. Henry's on the couch. Eliza thinks he's drunk because he's picked up quite a drinking habit.
Yes.
And
after his wife's death.
Right. His wife died many, many years before, but he has started drinking since then. And Dr. Edwards says, no, your dad had cardiac arrest. He's dead. At the funeral, William tries to console Eliza, says that she's not alone. And it's interesting that you had such a different take on this because you're like, he's standing there. She's literally right not alone. And I'm like, oh, but like she doesn't have anyone to provide for her now because she's a woman. So she's alone in that she doesn't have money. She doesn't have property. She has nothing.
And he actually reaches out and like touches her face.
Yeah,
like
like,
at that
no,
moment,
I'm right
like,
here.
right here. And,
right here.
But her focus is elsewhere.
I liked that you had that because I had never thought about that aspect of the conversation because I was just lost in Eliza's world. Anyways, William kind of says, like, listen, your dad was a mentor and a friend, so we know that he's known her dad for a very long time. They had a very close relationship. He knows how much Henry missed his wife. He's like, maybe it would bring you some comfort to think of them as reunited.
Yeah.
And
Being
Eliza,
comforting.
yeah, and Eliza's just like, but I missed her just as much as he did. So there's this, like, you know, grief is messy, and I feel like this is their way of showing just the unfinished business she had with her dad and
it
all
also
of that stuff.
supports how analytical she is.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, she's very logical.
Yes.
Maybe that's why I like her so much because I'm too emotional. Anyways, when she gets home from the funeral, a man is at her house looking for her dad, and he's angry that Henry didn't show up for the appointment that they had set up the day before because he was dead.
Yes.
But he doesn't know this yet, and Eliza, analytical mind that she has, sees this as an opportunity to pay some debts and also, I mean, get a little bit of experience in the process, but mostly the money thing. Like, she needs to pay the debts so that they can buy more food and so they don't starve and so that she can afford the house and all of that stuff. So she lies. She says, oh, my dad's out on a very important case. Leave me the message and I'll be sure to pass it along to him. And so we learn that this man is Mr. Alfred Winters, and he's ill. And he's looking for his niece, Clara Sims. And last he knew, she was working in Soho. And that's basically all the information we have. We have a photo. He passes a photo over to her too.
And he's very, very, very condescending. Like he's
he's in a hurry. Like, he thinks he's very important.
Yes, and this is not something that a lady should
right.
even be involved with.
Oh, right.
You know,
that's just like assumed.
Yeah.
But yes, no, he's very condescending.
There's the general, of the entire era, but he's like even more so.
Yeah,
maybe, like very specific.
He's angry that he has to talk to a woman.
Yeah.
About such nonsense, about finding his niece. Like, you're trying to find a woman.
Yeah.
So we have a flashback time here too.
Yeah,
so I really love the flashbacks because Henry reminds me a little bit of my own dad in a way because he's a very cool dad. He basically told her when she was little that she can do anything and be smart and wonderful, and like this is all fine and dandy. So in this flashback, we see Henry is giving his daughter a little lesson in poisoning.
Yes.
They cover laudanum and arsenic.
For knocking out arsenic for death.
Yes, and chloroform.
Yeah.
And we find out that arsenic is only detectable using the Marsh test.
Yeah.
And then Henry names the frog that they had practiced on after her teacher, Miss Dawkins, because the resemblance is uncanny. Like, it's just so cute. They bond over it so easily. And then the frog escapes and they laugh, and it's adorable.
And I like the fact that they're bringing Henry, that character back. I mean, because he's
dead. Yeah.
But like that's a reoccurring thing throughout the series where like she always has either the flashbacks or the memories,
or she's talking to him in her mind.
She would imagine how he would be.
Yeah. So they're obviously very close because she knows exactly how he would respond. It feels very authentic.
Yes.
Anyway, so we have that little flashback, and this lesson in poisoning comes in handy later. Okay. And then she sets out in search of Clara.
Mm-hmm. So heading to Soho.
Yeah, I assumed it was Soho. They don't actually say I need a ticket to Soho or anything like that. Ivy tries to stop Eliza from going out. It's not proper.
No.
So Ivy is also kind of a foil to show what time we're in. Mm-hmm. Venturing out at night, it's not right. So Eliza's just like, I'll call my own cab then. She's determined. She needs the money. She reiterates to Ivy, like, this is our only way out.
Yeah, she's not just doing this because she's pursuing her dream, what she wants to do.
Her passions, this is like,
financial.
We need to figure out how to pay the grocer so that we can buy some money. Buy some food. So she is out, and her child informant, I think it might be the same child. I'm not certain.
I'm not sure about that either, but yeah.
But she has another child informant. It might be the same child. He takes her to see the padre, who is a street pastor, essentially. And they show him the picture of Clara Sims and said, like, do you know where she is? And he says, trust in Moses.
Yeah.
Like this. Trust in Moses.
Drops a coin in.
And then he keeps preaching.
Yeah.
She drops a coin in. Her child informant steals all the coin and runs away.
Yeah, as she's walking away.
And
so.
she knows about it, too, because she's kind of smiling. It's kind of cute.
And yeah, but the Moses comment, as a first-time viewer, I'm like, okay, I don't see there unless there's something that directly, like, I didn't.
Right.
What information does that give her? Like, I mean, obviously he's an individual in the Bible, but like, we don't know exactly how that ties in later.
Because I'm rewatching and I'm like, Moses.
Yes, Christina was very excited about Moses. So a character to be seen,
to be determined.
Yeah.
So Eliza heads to this bar / I guess brothel. There's ladies dancing on the stage. It's very improper. I am sure that these ladies are dancing.
Place of ill repute.
Like showing their ankles and knees.
Scandalous. Yeah.
And
she gets like accosted on the way in too.
Oh,
like,
well,
she's
she gets shoved around.
Yeah, someone actually tries to and she has to fight him off.
Oh yeah, but she handles herself.
Yes,
fine.
as she would.
But yeah, she does. She's jostled around. She's accosted. She ends up at the bar, and oh my gosh, the one-eyed girl is there.
One-eyed drunken lady.
And she's like, I think I remember you. I never forget a face. And
I think you. Yeah,
I think I remember you. And Eliza's just like, oh, awesome. Do you recognize this woman? So she diverts it really smoothly.
Really quickly, yep.
And the girl says to ask Moses. He'll know. So she found Moses by accident,
and that's
essentially.
the connection right there.
That's the connection.
And she looks up, and there's like a basket, with
there's a
money, I
basket,
guess, going up or something.
Guiding her upstairs.
Yeah,
that is where Moses
back.
is.
There's Moses up there.
So Eliza heads upstairs, and we hear Moses in the background. He's so rude. He's screaming at the girls.
Yeah.
But the girls are all laughing and be like, don't get so worked up. So obviously he's more bark than bite. Eliza knocks on his office, and he just says, go away.
Yeah.
And I love it. Once inside his office, she tries to bribe him for information about Clara, but he doesn't like this. His job is to protect the girls.
And this is is this the first time where she calls him Mr. Moses?
Oh, right. She calls him Mr. Moses.
Mr. Moses.
And he goes, it's just Moses.
I'm not going to do the accent.
I'm really bad at this. It's a Jamaican accent, and apparently the actor I've read online is not good at Jamaican accents.
Oh,
too.
Wow. I would never have known.
So I would not have known either.
I'm not an expert. So.
But I saw it somewhere where people were just complaining about his bad accent.
Okay.
It's believable to me. Okay. It's fine. I lose myself in his character. He says money first, and then she hands him the money, and he's now get out.
He snatches
he snatches the whole purse.
The whole purse.
Yeah, he takes all her money.
And then is not going to give her anything.
Right.
Thanks for being here. Good day.
Good day. See yourself out. But that's all her money.
Yeah.
So
she gets a gleam in her eye.
She kind of walks away, and she goes, I have an idea. And she goes, I'm sure we can come to an arrangement. And he says, you're not my type, too skinny. And she's like, I wasn't going to suggest anything untoward. And then she pauses for a moment.
And that's where the gleam
she goes,
is.
Yeah, that's right. And then she goes, why don't I show you what it is us skinny girls can do?
And she walks over.
She saunters over.
Yeah, saunters. That's what I say. Yeah,
right in front of him. And chains him to a radiator, handcuffs him.
She reaches into her pocket.
Oh, yes.
And
pockets are important.
Pockets, very
dresses.
important.
Please give us pockets and dresses. Okay.
So has handcuffs, which we didn't know about. And then just bam, radiator.
I think it's a radiator.
Yeah.
He's chained up. He's not happy about this.
No, but he still has the purse of money.
He does.
So he has that. She's off to the side, and then she...
And he's threatening her life.
Yes.
And she looks around, and she sees turpentine.
Yep.
And lots of fire.
Yes.
Lots of flames everywhere.
So her analytical mind is putting two and two together that I can use this
I can use
as leverage.
This. Yes. And she threatens to set his office on fire with the turpentine.
Which we know is a bluff.
Because she's in the office too, but I guess she could get out real quick because she's not chained to the
also,
radiator.
we would hope that she's the kind of individual who
there's
wouldn't
money
do
in
this.
there that she would want to grab.
But he doesn't know that.
Right. And she threatens to set his office on fire. Terrible death, apparently. Turpentine makes a lot of soot. Did not know that. So I guess this is the thing I'm learning as I'm watching. And he throws her purse. And basically, he says, I'll hunt you down and kill you. And she goes, a man who drinks as much as you is far too lazy. And he goes, I think I like you.
Yeah.
And she says, good, tell me where Clara is. So she got exactly what she wanted.
There are many moments in this show where there's the expectation is set up and then you're duped like that. Like that line.
Yeah.
And this is another good point where we kind of skipped over a little bit, but like the dialogue throughout this entire show is so good. Yeah. There's really good banter between William and Eliza, between Moses and Eliza.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like, it's just a really
Everyone
good,
on the show is very smart.
Yes. Yeah. And quick. And like there's good jabs, like verbal back and forth. So this is a good example of that, where you're expecting one thing and then Moses is like,
I think I like you.
Yep.
And this is what, that line where he goes, I think I like you. I'm like, I love Moses.
that was it right there?
So much.
Yes.
That was the moment I fell in love with Moses, which will be an overarching theme for 3 seasons. So I hope you're ready for me to talk about how much I love Moses.
And there's another spoiler because that Moses is around then for 3 seasons.
That is another spoiler.
Yes.
You've probably watched all 3 seasons. It's fine.
So this is how when we get to season 2, when we get to episode 2, we'll talk about that.
Okay. Yeah. So he apparently tells her where Clara is because she immediately
goes
finds
downstairs.
Clara.
And she's getting like daggers.
Oh yeah,
thrown
they're
at her.
throwing knives at her.
Yeah,
she's not happy about it. She's very scared because the guy's drunk.
Yeah, which he doesn't seem drunk. Like just
well, he's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
but she knows.
She knows he's drunk.
Eliza introduces herself, says that her uncle's trying to find her. They sit down and have a drink, kind of talking about things. And Eliza's obviously not a drinker because she takes a sip and she's just like, ugh.
Yeah, no.
Eliza, this is when the police arrive. They bust in to arrest all the prostitutes and examine the whores. I hate that word, but that's exactly what they say.
Yeah.
And Eliza and Claire are both arrested.
Claire escapes.
Oh, that's right. She
manages to
the
get
police officer. I forgot.
She manages
to actually get away. But Eliza is arrested.
No, Eliza
she's taken in.
Mistakenly gets arrested.
She's taken in, and they're getting ready to perform their exam, and Eliza just goes, I'm William's favorite whore.
Yeah.
And so
name drop the chief inspector.
Right. The police
Scotland
inspector.
Yard.
Yep. So they don't do the examination.
But they would have.
Had she not name dropped.
Yeah. So this is just another window into the time of awfulness for women in this.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she uses her wit to...
She uses her connections to get out of trouble again. William teases her about it and says, I didn't know one chaste kiss made you my favorite whore. That's how we find out that they are childhood friends.
Yes.
He kissed her when she was 16 and consoling her after her dog died. So we know that they're longtime friends.
He gets the dog breed wrong.
He does get the dog breed wrong.
He says poodle or something like that.
Yeah, and it was a Jack Russell, I think,
exactly.
something like that.
But like that's another example of like good dialogue, really good dialogue that lays the foundation for their relationship. Very quickly. I'm going to say this a lot, and it's the show is so deliberate. Everything has a purpose, and not like it's very well crafted. I like the craft of shows. I like how things are put together.
I lose myself in this because it's so perfectly thought out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she thinks they're leaving, like on their way out, and she goes, wait, this way's not the exit.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, and he locks her in jail for the night, and she's upset, and he's like, I'm doing this for your father, like to protect you because you keep getting yourself into situations because basically you keep poking your nose in men's business is essentially the overarching arch, whatever of this. So she's unhappy, and we're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the reunion of Clara and her uncle.
Welcome back to Postscript. We were just talking about how Eliza was in the jail cell overnight, and we're picking up there.
Yeah, we're going to pick up with her release from jail. She is going to meet she immediately goes to meet Mr. Winters at the Cavendish. And he's mad at her because he found out her dad is dead.
Yeah.
And he threatens to take his business to Gill & Sons. But because Eliza is so quick, she says, your niece has different colored eyes and information you failed to disclose to me.
And he just quick turns around like, oh,
you found her.
Already.
So she now has the leverage.
So capable.
And she says, I demand half my fee up front. And on that condition, my fee's also gone up.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm going to make money on this because he's a condescending jerk. So Eliza meets Clara at her office. That's where she mentions that Clara got away because of a nice swift kick that the officer will not forget about anytime soon.
And she mentions, Clara mentions that she had been captured before. She actually knew. So she
had
didn't want to do that again.
captured and examined and accused of all of this before. And, it's a forced genital exam probably. Like, even ones that you go to now as to see a doctor, they're no fun. To have one forced on you is awful.
No.
So Eliza meets Claire. She goes, well, you can't meet your uncle looking like that. And they have this little bonding moment, girl thing, like, I'm going to fix your hair. And so she's fixing her up. Claire is telling us about her terrible husband, Joseph.
Yes.
And how they were bonded by heartbreak because he lost his first wife in the sinking of the Princess Alice.
That's right, yeah.
And this is kind of when Mr. Winter comes in, and immediately Claire goes, "That's not my uncle. That's my husband." That's the reveal. And you notice something.
Yeah. Okay. So when I first saw this, again, the show is really well put together. Great production value, amazing angle shots, sets. Everything is really, really polished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when Alfred Winters, I'm air quoting, walks in and into the I was like, wow, his beard looks really like they didn't put a whole lot of effort in that.
That's a really fake beard.
Yeah, I was just thinking the show just was scrimping, but here we find out that no,
it is a fake beard.
It was deliberately bad, and he just pulls off the fake beard aha.
I don't know if it's because I always watch without my glasses on, but I have watched this episode at least 3 times, and at no point did I ever notice that it was a fake beard.
Yeah.
I did not see any sign that it was a fake beard.
It was just too. It was too it was it was where it was connected. It was too. It just looked weird.
It was just off. Maybe it's because I don't have a beard myself.
Oh, maybe I do have a beard. For those who are listening and not watching right now on YouTube, I do have a beard.
A real beard because you have one.
Yes. Yeah. But anyway, it was a fake beard. He was going to trick Eliza's father from the very beginning.
Right.
This was a whole long con job.
Yeah, and I don't. So that got us talking. Why was he wearing a beard? Because Eliza or her dad would not have known who he was.
But he was pretending to be older.
Was it just trying to appear older?
Because Clara wouldn't have come if it wasn't her uncle, I think.
Well, correct.
But
she didn't see a picture of him or anything.
I know, but it was the Eliza's father, or Eliza in this case, were the ones who communicated that it was the uncle.
Right.
So they had to believe that it was the uncle
this was
in order
an
for
older
Clara
man
to come back.
Who was her uncle.
Yeah. There's a few I've only watched the first 2 episodes, but there are a few instances where you're like, okay, they had to do this for the plot.
Right. For the big reveal.
Yes. And it was a big reveal.
It was a big. I was,
yeah.
What?
And I was like, aha!
I knew it. That
was
beard.
Fake beard. Okay.
So we find out that her uncle actually died a month ago. And her husband found out a week ago.
Yeah. And
that's when he went on a quest to find her.
To get the inheritance.
Right. Because he wants to lock her up in an asylum. The official term is moral insanity. And he can get this from a doctor because a wife who runs away to become a whore, which we know she is not. Because she established that. No, she does not sleep around for money. She's not a prostitute. She's hauled off to the asylum.
Yeah,
he had men waiting.
Yeah.
And she says,
his plan.
Yeah, it's so gross. He's the grossest. That's why he's so condescending, because he's the grossest. And Clara says, I hope the money was worth it. And Eliza promises to get her out. But, women have absolutely no authority in this society. So this is almost an impossible promise.
At this point, I'm like, oh, no. I don't know how Eliza's going to get this turned around.
And then, Joseph finishes paying her, and she does not look happy about it.
No.
But now her bills are paid.
Yeah, well, that's the silver lining in this horrible situation.
This is when we have another flashback to her and her dad. We see Eliza bloodied after a fight at school. Mm-hmm. This kind of establishes, her dad having some regrets about him kind of building her up and basically making her think she can do anything.
Yes.
We find out that they asked her at school what she wants to become when she's older. And probably the only acceptable answer was teacher or mother in the Victorian times. But she says she wants to be a police officer. And Arabella, her bully and the teacher's pet, and spoiler, long game introduction, Arabella tells her she will never be anything more than a motherless pig, which, I mean, holy heck, that is some mean stuff.
Yeah.
Henry is mad that he's filled Eliza's head with fanciful ideas of ever possibly becoming a police officer, because a woman police officer, never.
But when he hears that insult, he's taken aback. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he feels...
You needed to throw down a little bit there.
Yeah, I think he understands why she's bloodied.
Yes.
But he also is mad at himself for even filling her head with the idea that she could become that.
Possibilities, yeah.
Eliza wants to change the world.
Yes.
She's like, well, then I will change that. And he feels bad, and he says, no tears or there will be no supper. And she says, you always say that, and there always is. And I cry because it's just a sweet line between them. I love her dad. I love her dad so much. Anyways, so after that flashback, I guess this is just to make us feel sad, because I don't think there's really much in that other than just her perseverance and persistence at wanting to do this.
It's character building, which is good. It's important.
Yeah. We are going to redeem ourselves with genius and theft. That's my notes. I said genius and theft.
Okay.
Eliza goes to visit William for help, and of course he is not quick to give it. He chastises her for putting herself in harm's way, and shares that Joseph has a mile-long rap sheet, and she could have gotten herself in even worse trouble, because he's a dangerous man. And she goes, can I see that file?
Yeah.
And William refuses, and he says, just stop sticking your nose in a man's job. He tells her to back off. She pretends to feel faint, and he goes off to fetch the smelling salts for her. And immediately I'm like, she's going to grab that file. Yeah. That's exactly what she does. But instead of sitting there and reading it quickly.
Yeah. That was just what I thought. She just
stands up and goes.
She just takes it.
This is our opportunity.
Yep. And we quick cut to her back at her house, and William's
he's banging on the door. He knows
door.
Immediately when he comes back and she's missing. He knows the file's missing, and
she's had time to digest it.
She's going through this file. She's reading over everything. And she finds something. So she goes to visit the Cavendish and lets herself into Joseph's room.
Yep.
And we find out, he's like, how did you get in here? She goes, oh, the maid gave me a key, called in a favor. And he's like, well, I'm going to speak to the manager. She's like, that's where she got the key, so that she wouldn't tell his wife that they were having an affair. So she knows how to work.
And this was just a glance that that happened earlier in the episode, where she was waiting and she just looked over and just saw this interaction between the manager and the maid, and just two and two together.
Put
she
two and
knew
two together.
and then she used she works with leverage.
Oh yeah, no, she's very scrappy. I would say she's a scrappy person.
Yes.
She puts two and she uses whatever she can in her arsenal to get what she needs to get. Anyways, she says, you lied to Clara. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she said, well, you were in prison when the Princess Alice sank. He's like, well, what difference does that make? You said it yourself. My wife died. And she goes, except your wife didn't die.
Whoop.
What?
There we go.
Your wife survived, and he is a bigamist. I like how she just goes, and you are a bigamist, very calmly. And that means his marriage to Clara is not legally binding.
So he can't throw her in an asylum.
She can't run away from a husband that she's not really married to.
And he doesn't get the inheritance.
Yeah.
And this is the out, which then puts Eliza in a situation, because she's in a room with a man.
Right.
Who
alone,
is criminal.
Dangerous.
Yes.
And he grabs a scarf.
Yeah.
And she goes, interesting that you're choosing strangulation, since that takes quite a bit of strength. And he's just like, what? She's like, the police are downstairs waiting for you. And he kind of hesitates for a moment. He goes, you're lying. I don't see any police cars. He goes to the window and says, I don't see any police cars. She goes, well, they're around back. They didn't want to alarm the guests. So we know she's lying here.
Yeah.
But it buys her some time, which is important because we find out that he's slowly losing strength because she put a little laudanum in his coffee, which the maid also allowed her to make. Which
we, again, was talked about in the initial flashback with her and her father. And that was like, again, this is a
perfect
very
balance of not killing somebody with poison.
And it was not only did that flashback earlier build character, like just establish how their relationship was, but it's
Right.
also useful information.
Right. He was sharing useful information for the career that she would like to have, by the way.
It's a very tidy script for
Yeah.
the first episode. And I love a well-crafted story. So this is very, very good.
Yeah,
So he just collapses on the floor.
He just like the laudanum finally kicks in.
Yeah.
Like you're waiting and then he just stumbles and falls. I don't know if it actually works that quickly or if it's more like I fall asleep.
I wouldn't know, but yeah.
But anyways,
in the episode it worked that way. So
this is when she actually calls the police.
yeah, and
she's out.
She said she was like lying about the rest, but like that last bit.
Part I was not lying about.
William is they're downstairs. They're like he's like he's getting like the bad guy's getting carted away.
Yep.
And like then William is not happy with how.
Oh no, because she broke many laws to do this.
Yeah.
She stole police property.
Yes.
She poisoned a man.
Yes.
And she broke into his hotel room, essentially.
Yes.
So there's a lot of rule breaking. He basically says, if you do this again, I'll have no choice but to arrest you and put you in jail. But, she's like, well, it's a good thing that I poisoned him so heavily because it took you like 45 minutes to get here.
Again, good banter back and forth.
But this means Clara is free.
Yes.
Clara is free, she's independent, and she's wealthy. The only thing that women can possibly do in this country is in this situation, is to have the money to live independently.
And I love the shot of her walking out of the asylum because she's like, there's the framing and throughout the series, like the camera work on the show is so good. And like there's like it's like symmetry. She's walking out of this dark
she's
entryway.
like perfectly centered.
Exactly, perfectly centered. And it's just the symbolic of her freedom is very.
There's
very
no
well
one
illustrated.
around her.
No, she is.
I just realized that.
And she does this like she's like kind of she comes out of it and she kind of like looks up and around and she's like she's
actually free. She's truly free.
Yeah.
Eliza returns to her home. Rupert is there. Eliza's very excited about. Eliza. Ivy is very excited about this. She's like, he's a very wealthy man.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a good idea. But when Eliza walks in, he's very disturbed, and he's there to say, "I can't marry you,"
which we don't know at first. It's a bit of a
delicate dancing because neither one of them wants to marry each other. So
which
they're
we find
dancing
out
around it to be polite.
Initially, I thought that he was just uncomfortable just to be there, but I thought that he was going to ask. I thought that it was like he was going to propose and it was going to be awkward.
His mother wanted him to.
It was another one of those situations where the dialogue was heading one direction,
and then
like even though he was reluctant, I thought he was going to propose.
Yeah.
And then he just like completely the dialogue is switched.
He breaks. He's just like, I cannot marry you.
Yeah, and that's the reveal. That's what he was actually. That's where it reveals that he was actually like really anxious because he expected her to want him to marry her.
Right.
And he's like, I'm the reason why I'm nervous. Actually, he doesn't say this.
I can't marry you.
And so they're both basically relieved.
Yeah. Well, they are, and she basically says, well, then that makes two of us.
Yeah.
And he's so worried about going back to tell his mother that Eliza turned him down, or no, that he couldn't propose. That's what it is. That he was the one that decided not to marry her. And she's like, well, just tell your mother that I turned you down. He's like, really? You would do that? And so this is like the first little budding friendship here between the two of them is like he knows he's a very wealthy man and he offers to help her however he can as a very wealthy man. And you see her instantly go, I have an idea for you.
Yes. And that's the sponsorship, the financial support.
So
financial support is very important.
It's implied, yes, it is. And it is implied that this very wealthy man has given her the loan that allows her to do some upgrades to her father's office. She gets like new curtains, just cleans things up a little bit. They're making some changes
William
outside.
notices this as
we're not sure what they were changing outside.
Yeah, because like the name is still the same.
It's still
her
Mr.
father.
Henry Scarlet.
Yes, it's still her father's name.
Yeah.
I think they were attaching the actual placard on the side of next to the door.
That might have been the only thing.
Because I think that you have to have that if you're like an official like detective agency
maybe.
Different professions had like different things next to their door to
like a license, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
That might have been it. I thought they were taking something off the door, but when the door closed, it still looked exactly like.
I might have to go back and
Mr.
look, but they were. I think they were putting
Scarlet.
like a.
I know they were.
I think it was like
they
a
were
metal
doing something
plate
with the
next to
plaque.
I was expecting them to be etching off the name or changing the name, and that was not the case.
That did not happen. That's what I thought so too. And then when the door closed and it was all the same, it was just like.
And William makes a comment about that.
Oh yeah, he mentions no miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, she still wants to get business. So
that would just chase the business away.
She wants to change the world, but she also knows that she's in the world.
She's pragmatic about it.
Exactly.
She's making decisions based on like, well, how do I get people in the door to talk to me in the first place? So we also get, after William leaves, before William leaves, she asks him about his murder case. That's right.
Oh, yeah. There's a fall.
That man that you found with the rash. And he's just like,
She suggested it was the wife. It was the wife.
It was the wife. Something I would have noticed the rash had I had time. I had not dedicated any time to the case yet. He just hadn't started it yet. Okay, William. Yeah. Okay. She solved the case for you. And then after he leaves, we have this little moment where she has a conversation with her dad.
That's right.
Like this, basically, it's not his ghost.
This is the first where like she imagines him.
Right. Like, it's not really a hallucination because it's all in her head.
And she knows that.
And he says, "So you're really going to do this?" This is where it like really feels like my dad. He says, "So you're really going to do this?" And she goes, "Do you disapprove, Papa?" And he says, "Oh, what difference would it make? You never listen to me anyway." And I'm like, that's my dad. That's me and my dad. But he looks around and he's like, "I like the upgrades. It looks really nice, but that picture needs straightening." And so she straightens it. She's like, "Anything else?" He's like, "Not right now, but I'm sure I'll think of something." And
that sets the stage for the rest of the series because he does appear again for advice or feedback or
he's kind of a reoccurring memory that she consults with him essentially on her cases. And it ends with, "What will I do without you, Papa?" And that's when he's not there anymore in the office because he was all in her head. And that's the end of the show, which I thought was a really lovely outro that made me tear up. Every time I watch it, I tear up.
Great way to bring it to a landing at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are going to cover episode 2 next. If you have any thoughts to share with us regarding this episode, future episodes, because if you've watched it before, send in your thoughts now. Like, why not?
Feedback's always appreciated.
Email us at ps@witf.org. Message us on Facebook at witf.org or Instagram at witforg. No dot. So I think that is everything. Do you have any closing thoughts on it? Like, how to just make it? You're so excited.
I'm really looking forward to seeing more of the show. So, like, in a way, since I'm not watching ahead, I'm
you're restraining yourself. I have not rewatched ahead. Because I want to remember before we record what's happening.
Be more in the moment.
But
so,
yeah. I'm excited that you're excited and want to watch ahead because this is one of my favorite shows.
I love hearing that because I before going, I had no idea what this. I mean, I knew generally what the show was about, but I didn't know if I would like the show.
London's First Lady Detective.
Yes, I'm very yes.
Yeah, that's essentially
that's about what I have. And, so I'm looking forward to watching the show with you. Yeah, just getting through this this as the story unfolds, the characters develop. I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm super excited about more Moses, which I've already shared with you, and I spoiled a little bit of episode 2 for you, but I don't feel bad about it at all.
No regrets.
Because I really, really just love Moses. Yeah. So, all right, we will end here, and we will catch you next time for episode 2.